We now move into our first power chat session with two of our billion-dollar babies for the day. To facilitate this session, I would first like to call upon someone who in most circles does not need much introduction. However, please place your eyes on the screen for a snapshot of him as he comes in. Please welcome Mr. J. Krishnan, founder and CEO of Unimity and one of the pillars of Thai Chennai. And now, for the person who during this session will give us the future perspective, please welcome Mr. Ramraj, who was the past president of Thai Chennai and also mentor, investor, and advisor for businesses. And now, I would like to introduce you to the judge who zeroed in on our billion-dollar babies for this session. He will, during this session, expand upon his reasons and parameters for the selection. Please welcome Mr. Anup Bagchi, Managing Director and CEO of ICICI Securities and a professional with vast experience in assessing companies. I now hand the floor over to Mr. Krishnan, who will introduce you to our billion-dollar babies and take us through the next hour.
Till a few years ago, we used to talk only of billion babies. I'm delighted that we are now in a position to talk of billion-dollar babies. And I was just thinking that if India could produce 100,000 billion-dollar babies from the billion babies, then we are already 100 trillion economy and very quickly, therefore, leaders in the world. And towards identifying these 100,000 billion-dollar babies, I'm happy to share with you that Thai Chennai has already identified 4 of them. During this session, we're delighted we have Anup Bagchi, one of the judges of the billion-dollar baby selection process, and Ramraj, who's coming in as looking at the future. And so during the session, I would be inviting Anup to share a few thoughts, interacting with the billion-dollar babies to get their stories, nuggets that we can all pick up from their own journeys on how they've achieved this fantastic growth and status for themselves. And then Ramraj, towards the end, would interact with them to bring out what is their readiness for the future and to make sure that the potential that they've already achieved is taken to the fullest. So let me first invite Mr. Varadarajan, co-promoter and executive director finance of VA Tech Wabag Limited, one of our billion-dollar babies. And as he comes up, video on VA Tech Wabag, please.
VA Tech Wabag is in the water engineering industry. We produce water and wastewater treatment plants for both municipal and industrial application. We are in the wholesale segment, in the sense we build very large plants for the municipal communities as well as for industries like refineries or power plants or fertilizer plants. For you to easily connect, we are in Chennai. Our large desalination plant of 100 million per day capacity is there in the East Coast Road, and that is supplying drinking water to the needs of the city of Chennai. We started as a German company way back in 96-97. We were acquired by an Austrian company called VA Tech, whose Talpine is shortened as VA, and we became VA Tech Wabag from being a Balkidur Wabag, which was a German company, to an Austrian company. We were a 100% owned subsidiary until 2005. And that was a year we joined hands with ICICI Ventures and we did a management buyout of the Indian entity. In 2007 November, we did a reverse acquisition of the S12 parent in Austria. In 2010 we listed the stock in the Indian stock exchanges. Now we are looking for joining the billion euro club.
That was great, but I want to highlight certain aspects which may have come out in the video or may not have come out in the video. It's an amazing story. Just 6 people in 1997. And then they reach 100 crores by the year 2003. Then the top management of the company, the senior management of the company, they decide that things are not going all that well, and they decide to buy out the Indian operations. And that's rare, that's unique. So in 2005, the top management of the company buys out the Indian subsidiary. And they don't stop there. In just 2 years, by 2007, the fish swallows the whale. The subsidiary buys out the parent company. And that's unique too. And they don't stop there. They reach 1,000 crores by 2009, and they are only in water treatment. They're not in water storage, they're not in water transportation, they're not in construction. They reach 1,000 crores. It's like just being in the software business of water. So water treatment. Listing in 2010, we'll see at a fantastic price. We'll see that story as we move along. Today, over 2,500 crores, over 1,700 people, global operations. That's VA Tech Wabag. That's the story. And I now invite Vijay Krishnan, co-founder and president of Maxter Inc., another of our billion-dollar babies, to join us on stage. And video, please, while he comes up on stage.
Maxter is the fastest growing cross-platform digital newsstand in the world. Maxter was started in 2011 as a digital magazine store, and before that Vijay and I used to work together in .com Infoway, and I used to run a magazine called Galata Cinema, and all this kind of helped us to create what Maxter is today. Globally, digital publishing is in the nascent stage, but if you look at the print publishing business between books and magazines, it's more than $100 billion that is in print today, and we are seeing that rapidly being moved into the digital era. So if you see $100 billion moving to digital, and Maxter is in the right place at the right time, so there is a huge opportunity for Maxter.
There are two big positive inflection points for the digital magazine industry and for Maxter itself. The first one is the launch of iPad in the year 2010, when Steve Jobs announced his iPad and it revived the entire digital magazine industry. And the second one is the launch of Apple's newsstand, and the moment we partnered with Apple Newsstand to power the apps. And today we are the largest supplier of Apple's newsstand apps.
Initially, we had started Maxter as a magazine store, and even today our business model is predominantly selling of magazines as single copies or subscriptions. But one of the inflection points that we see in the future is, or we are currently seeing, is that we have a ton of content and a ton of users, and we want to be able to monetize that using advertising.
Again, typical of one modest Madrasi. All modest Madrasis, very subdued presentation. So let me again share some highlights on what is amazing about Maxter. Started in 2011 with 2 crores investment, less than 50 people. In 3 years, they are now the preferred digital newsstand which has over 4,500 magazines, 900 plus from India, which means the rest are from global magazines, over 10 million readers as far as their platform is concerned, adding close to 900,000 every month, well poised to grab market share when a print industry which is about 100 billion, of which less than 5% have really moved into the digital platform. They are well poised to capture a very good market share of this entire print industry, which in the nearest possible future have to move into digital. That's Maxter. So Anup, before I hand over to you for you to share some thoughts on what the jury felt, Varadarajan, one quick question to you. What do you think is unique about Wabag? And in just one word or one sentence, please.
Well, we are a water technology company. We are into the entire range of water products. We treat both water for industrial and municipal purpose. So we are one of the very few companies who have this complete range of technologies.
Thank you. And Vijay, what is unique about Maxter? Just one word or one sentence, please.
I think I have like a lot of answers, but sitting in Chennai, emotionally, I should say product made by Indians, touching lives of users globally. So we wanted to take something global, and that's Maxter.
All right. Thank you. And Anup, would like to hear your thoughts on what the jury felt was special about these two companies.
Thank you, JK. I think there are 2 or 3 clusters or trends that we saw. The list was long, and then we had to really work to get the 4 jewels. Not to say that the others were not jewels. They were equally, it was very tough for the jury. But there are 2 or 3 trends that we are seeing now. One is a trend of spin-offs, which, Wabag typically exemplifies, very typically exemplifies. So what are those kind of things that you're a part of a large group, but for whatever reason, the main promoter or the main group doesn't, focus on that. And it is essentially a people-driven business, and that's very critical. It's not technology-driven. So the capital that you put in is essentially intellectual capital that you put in, human capital that you put in. And then, very soon the promoter realizes that what is it that you are selling. At the end of it, if you are selling people or you require people to back up this enterprise, and it's not capital, it's not technical capital, etc., then very clearly there is a situation where management says that, if we are the main part of the deal, that why should we not buy it off? Okay, so that is one. The important thing there is that there must be a large sort of revenue pool or a large opportunity. And we really felt that, water is one of the commodities on which the future wars will be fought. Like oil was in 70s, I think water is going to become a similar kind of a commodity going forward in 10, 15, 20 years. And I think, organizations like Wabag, etc., have a very, very important role to make sure that water is usable, it is recyclable, and they have the capability and the intellectual horsepower to make it done. The third thing we saw, in Wabag, and I'll come to Maxter, is, you see, the line is never straight. Although when we look at outputs, when we see articles, we think that the line is straight. The line is never straight. It is zigzag, zigzag. And, there are all kinds of self-doubts that entrepreneurs have, promoters have, when you scale up a company and when you acquire a company. And we look at management depth. And we saw that, is their mind flexible? Are they able to solve problems? So are they really aware of what are the, real issues that can crop up? And not to say that there has to be some definite answers to those issues, but A, are they aware of the issues, and B, do they have the capability of resolving the issues if it comes up? And we certainly saw that the quality of management, that the depth of management, and the thinking through, and the openness and the humility in the management, that yes, we don't have answers to everything. We all have our issues. And they were quite, and so, we would have spent 60% of our time trying to judge that. At the end of it, it is judgment, trying to judge that. Are they aware of the issues? What will they do of the issues? And if an issue comes up, how will they respond to that issues? Or will they just become that this is my answer and take it or leave it? So we found that the management, was capable. It has a lot of intellectual capital, and I'm sure, during the session, we'll see that the challenges they still face, it's not a straight answer. So that's on Wabag. Maxter is a very, very different, case. And there, the second trend that we saw. What is the second trend? Essentially, the whole IT sector, was started in 90s, early 90s. Earlier, of course, 70s, 80s, TCS was there. But really in 90s and mid-90s. And we saw, many people of our age or younger, going to US and working in very large corporations and getting exposed to innovation, getting exposed to the valley, getting exposed to innovation. And they have seen very large companies, and they have worked in very large companies. And when you work in very large companies, one of the fear that you take out is fear of heights, as I call it. What is fear of heights? Fear of heights is that you don't fear a large number. You don't fear a large organization because you have seen it all. In fact, you have seen the plus of the large organization and you have seen the negative of the large organization. And here you are in the midst of it. You're capable. You have the experiences of seeing an organization grow up. You yourself are a part of a large organization, and then you have an idea. And you have an idea, and then you get capital, and you see that, look, I'm going to use my experiences to create a platform. Now, what kind of platforms you create? In Maxter, we saw that you are able to now, with the digital revolution and the trends and the telecom and all of it, you are able to create platforms which are global. Wabag, for example, the scale-up still has friction. They have to work harder because at the end of it, it's a local business, in a way global, but 70% of the business is local. You have to locally work with municipalities, you have to locally work with the authorities and make it happen. But Maxter, that way, is a low friction business. You can scale it up very quickly. And the world is global, and you have trend on your side. So the essential thing that, we saw in that is that the business model is correct. Second, I think they were very, very clear that, is magazine the way forward? And, we were pleasantly surprised that, they also sort of, in a way, agreed that they have to make it into a reading destination. Because the trends can change. Magazine, of course, there is a plus of digitization, but there is also a negative headwind that people have stopped reading magazines in many parts of the world, or that is, it is declining. And so the thought is that you make it into a reading destination. So what are the positives that we saw in that? That you have got a very, very rich database. You have got a headwind moving towards you, and you have got a management which recognizes early on that, look, in the business that we are in today, that may not be the business that you will be in, maybe 3 years, 5 years from now. And the businesses that you will shift is adjunct businesses. So you move it from magazine to a reading destination, and perhaps God knows what it is. And I must share one very interesting, data with you that I saw. There was a projection made of Amazon when they went IPO, and this is a very interesting one. And for the first 10 years of their lives, every analyst overestimated their revenues. And post 10, they blew away every estimate of the revenue. And so the key is, underestimating short term, rather overestimating short term and underestimating long term. And that is where the key is, that are you able to move and be persistent about your businesses and are flexible in your mind to scale it up quickly. This is all judgment from our side, but we are very confident that the team that we have chosen, and it will be very heartened when they become $1 billion baby and will come back. Thank you, JK.
Thank you so much, Anup. I mean, you've given us the highlights of what you're all looking for as people who are tracking different companies, and therefore you get the signals and you get on to the right parameters that one can look at. So in our interactions with both these billion-dollar babies, we're going to do it more about the battles in the mind. Because we think as entrepreneurs, it's the battles in the mind which are far more important than the battles on the field. And it is the battles in the mind, like Vaidyanathan was sharing with us during his own talk. It's about the anxieties, the fears, the doubts, which uncertainties, all these which are being battled in the mind by the entrepreneurs, till it can move to, some sort of, I would say, clarity, certainty, conviction, and then concerted action. That, to me, is what we will try and get from both these people, not specifically just battles on the field. So, Varadarajan, let me start with you first. Just 6 people in 1997. And then you say, hey, we're going to go after 100 crores. When even at that time, established players like, Batley Boy or Thermax were all a few crores of rupees in water treatment. So what is it that gave you that confidence that you can become a leader in this particular space?
I think it was largely the belief. In fact, I should share this. When we pitched the vision as to become #1 company way back in '98 or so, we were also parallelly talking about becoming a 100 crore company, and I used to ask my CEO, where is 100 crore in the market? Because the competition was doing about 20-30 crores, and they are already 2-3 decades in the market. So that was the initial, I would say, learning point for me. But then we felt that it's not about what is in the market, it's all about you, it's about your belief. And then we started working with the people, and it's our belief which is actually saw that the market is slowly expanding and there are new business, it was good in a way that we changed hands from the German to an Austrian company, and when the Austrian company came, we were allowed to do municipal business where the treatment plants are larger in size, the volumes are bigger. So that gave the great opportunity for us. We had the reference, we had the technology, and we chose projects which are multilateral, bilateral funded so that it's more secure, and it's also something that we are able to scale up in the whole, and that was how we reached this 100 crore company.
Great, more interesting. So 2003 you had reached 100 crores, and then for some reason, because the core group, I mean Rajiv Mittal, Shiv Saraf, Amit Sengupta and yourself, something not happening right. Either the parent company didn't understand what needs to be done here in India, and therefore all of you as senior management in the company, you decide, rather than quitting the company or finding some options somewhere else, you're saying, hey, let's buy this company. I mean, to me it's amazing. How did that thought happen? What is it that the four of you then did? And how did you then say, hey, this is what we need to do?
Well, within 3 years of starting, we've already changed hands twice. Now, after we became a Viatech Austrian company in 2004, from 2000 to 2004, they were again contemplating a change. Viatech said that they wanted to diversify the water business. They said it's non-core. And there were many international companies which were doing due diligence on us. Personally, we were feeling very frustrated because we were very successful in this part of the world, and we were building the business brick by brick, and we were successful, but still we were on the block up for sale. And that was frustrating because you spend a lot of time in due diligence and you're not allowed to do your business. And the trigger came from my CEO, Mr. Mittal, that we were sitting in a due diligence discussion, and he just whispered to me, it's better that we buy the business ourselves. And I replied, why not? So this is how the whole thing started for us.
Fantastic. Okay, so therefore I would say you dared to dream first, okay? But then you didn't stop at daring to dream. You then dared to actually do. And I'm just imagining most of you senior management, okay, therefore whatever it is, still salaried employees of the company, maybe some savings, maybe some few lakhs of rupees we can put together. So though this thought came, what is it and how is it that you took it forward to raise whatever money is required to actually buy the company?
Well, it was a leveraged buyout. We started interfacing with Viatech, the owner in Austria, that we want to do a management buyout. Initially we saw the response was lukewarm because they were our colleagues and they were not able to kind of take it easily that you are part of me, my community until yesterday, and you want to own the company tomorrow. So that was a little bit of bottleneck for us. But we were continuing the dialogue, and suddenly what happened was the entire Viatech group was taken over. It was a hostile takeover by Siemens. And it was a 5 billion euro company which was taken over by Siemens. And Siemens sacked the group CEO. It happens in every takeover. Now, we were in dialogue with him, and on the last day of his office in Viatech, he decided that we will sell Wabag India to the management. That was a turning point for us, and thankfully Siemens honored the commitment, and we were able to kind of acquire the company. We chose, we were on the lookout for what are the possibilities, because as he rightly said, we are first generation entrepreneurs, we are salaried employee, we were average people like anybody else. But the thought in us that we want to acquire was very dominant for whatever reasons I explained. So we went into the market and we found, to our surprise, there were so many venture capitalists or private equity funds which are willing to associate with us, be part of this new story which we had in us. And we chose ICICI Ventures because they had the largest private sector bank with them. In our kind of business, we need a lot of non-fund banking lines. And that's a big number that we need. And so we thought it will be wonderful to have venture capitalist who has a nice bank backing, and that will add a lot of credibility when we are talking to prospective sellers. So that is how the whole journey started, and I think it fructified successfully.
Thank you, Varadarajan. Now let's move to Vijay and get some inputs from you. Vijay, you moved into mobile-based development from earlier being in network management or in web development in some form. And when I asked you, you said it was serendipity. Though I nodded very intelligently at that point in time, I later quickly rushed to a dictionary to check out what this serendipity really is. And the dictionary said it is fortunate happenstance. So I need to refer what this happenstance is. So together then I deciphered it is a very happy chance occurrence. So serendipity is how you described your move into getting into mobile development. Can you share what was it which was that incident that triggered this in you?
Sure, of course. I mean, after running software services company for more than 10 years, there is always a thirst in my mind saying we should do something, some product based out in India that can really touch lives of people worldwide to global audience. Not only to Indians, it should be a product that can be used by every single person across the globe. That's the thirst that I always had in my mind. And I think that the opportunity came in when Apple came into India in 2008, when they talked about their app platform in Bangalore, and then they said pretty much everybody who does a product can reach out to global consumers, global audience, and they can make a lot of money, of course. That's the end of the day, I mean, that's what people want. So that's when I saw the opportunity, why not we diversify our business into mobile apps? Because PCs are there for a long time. I mean, people are using PCs, and then the new generation devices are coming in, smartphones and tablets. Why not we get into something which is very new, and Apple is backing it up, a company which has established its business for a long time, and came back and had a discussion with my co-founder Girish, and we thought, we should do something. Then we wanted to validate. See, at that time India had very little smartphones in place, that too like a sophisticated iPhones or something like that. We had very small number of phones, so we needed to really validate. At the time, our existing business, we also run a magazine, Galata Cinema, that helped us to validate our own thought. So we said, why not we create a platform for our own magazine and validate our business? Because that magazine is reaching out to consumers within India. But if you put it on a smartphone, there is a possibility for the magazine to reach to global audience. And then we did it. We launched it in 2009, an app for our own magazine. And to our surprise, within few months, we saw more than 100,000 people from different parts of the world, specifically the diaspora, Indian diaspora living across the globe. They got to interact with the magazine. That's when it struck us. Yes, this is the opportunity. Why not we extend this to all the magazine publishers globally? Why not we create a platform? Thereby, we can achieve what we really want. Taking a product done by Indians, selling it to global customers, in terms of B2B and B2C. That's the moment I define it as serendipity.
What is interesting is there might have been hundreds of people who were there in that Apple conference. Yet you acted upon this. All those 100 people would have received that same input saying, mobile is the way things are going to go, lots of things are going to develop, Apple has these sorts of products and services for you, but you guys acted upon it. So what was it which you saw which convinced you, and then you shared with me that you did something in the IPL and Sony to test out a few more things. Could you share some?
Yeah, of course. I mean, not only the magazine that we owned came into smartphone, and tablet devices, we also wanted to create content-based apps. So we made a deal with IPL way back in 2009 when the second season of IPL was happening. And we wanted to give to our Indian audience or the Indian diaspora audience across the globe an opportunity to watch IPL match, see the live scoring, watch the audio commentary, whatever they wanted to do with IPL, because cricket is our food. I mean, so we wanted to use this opportunity to reach out to global audience. So we launched the app way back in like 2009, and that had a very good traction as well. Because I mean, like few thousand or several thousand devices were there, and pretty much we were able to sell those to those audience at like $5 an app or something like that. So there we saw an opportunity. Yes, this is again getting validated in the market. The smartphone business is very good. The app business, app development business is very good. And then we thought, I mean, why not we again do something for the music industry? Because, you know, the global players like iTunes and others were not in India. So today, I mean, anybody who is owning an Apple device or anything in that sense with Apple, they can download music from iTunes. But that very recently happened. Those days, there is no way to reach out to iTunes audience or the smartphone audience through an app. So we tied up with Sony Music. We said we will take some of the apps, I mean some of the music to the global audience, and we started with our own Chennai movie, Vinnai Thandi Varuvaya. We tied up with Sony Music and we launched it as an app for users across the globe to stream the music, to download the music and to enjoy the music. And after that we did like 20, 30 albums. So long story short, we tried to make various content-based apps because we thought, I mean, the app should be refreshing for the users, not the same stuff that you see. You should not get bored. So the content has to be refreshing. So those things helped, made a key role to our entry into Maxter.
Thanks, Vijay. Let's get back to Wabag. So, Varadarajan, you guys had acquired VA Tech Wabag India, 2005. And just 2 years, you guys decide that, hey, let's now buy the parent company, you know, some sort of reverse osmosis, and then you say, let's go after the big guys. And how did that opportunity come your way? What was your thought process, and how did you go forward with really doing this transaction?
See, in 2005, when we did the management buyout, the one thing which immediately came out was the employees started feeling that from being a multinational company as a subsidiary, we have become a standalone Indian company. We didn't realize that this is a bigger thing for us to overcome with the mindset of the people, because we are in people business, as Anup rightly said. Second thing was there were a lot of restrictions with regard to the way the deal happened with Siemens. We were having very restrictive jurisdictions. We have grown in 15 states in this country, and we are already leaders in this water engineering business. We want to grow. So we wanted to tap the Middle East market. But then going with an Indian tag is something which is not very accepted in that market. So we wanted the European tag. But then the seller had put a condition that we have to change the company's name. We can't use VA Tech Wabag. It should be either Hindustan Wabag or whatever prefix, suffix, that's what is allowed. So the thought happened in us that we should somehow overcome this. And this was the initial seed that made us look for a company which is up in the market in Europe. And it so happened that in 2007, the parent was up for divestment, and we have already had a smooth deal in 2005. So when we pitched in, there were almost about 10 or 11 international companies which were wanting to buy this company out. But Siemens had greater confidence in us because we had a bank, a credible bank, Indian bank with us, and we had a credible management which had been running this successfully. So they thought it's a better bet for us to divest the company to them. So we, after a long process, we got shortlisted and we were given the rights to do the due diligence. And it was a very long process. I would say very challenging, and finally overcoming all the regulation and this and that, we bought over the kind of company. The biggest challenge was, of course, for us, not the regulation post the acquisition, it was more the people, and it was something like an European company had never seen an Indian owner in the past. And so when they were actually confronted with the reality that we were actually the bosses of them, and suddenly their table has turned over to us, and how do we kind of accept it? So that was the kind of situation in which we were, but I think the whole thing went successfully because I think we had proved something credible in 2005.
Amazing. Then you continued the phenomenal growth. You had already reached 100 crores by 2003, and by 2009, you all reached 1,000 crores. Is it acquisitions, or was it organic, or what was your strategic thing to move to those sorts of growth levels?
See, when we did the reverse acquisition of the parent, the key thing that came to us was we got a perennial right to use the brand VA-Tech Wabag across the globe. That was the first thing, and along with it, we had over 6,500 plant references across the globe. We had over about 11 or 12 or 14 countries which were developed, and that was available to us, and over 100 patents came along with this. This is something which was very important for us because we were actually facing the competition from French in this country. Any large municipal business, you will see two French, the number 1 and 2 will compete with us. So if we were a standalone Indian company, probably we would have been lost out in the race, and they would say there's some other Wabag. But then today, when we actually acquired, they could not do that. And we, with all the kind of references and the brand and the patents and all that, we were able to be very confident and strong in Indian market, and we grew 6x between 2005 to 2010. That was, as a standalone company also, we grew into a 1,000 crore company from, we were a 200 odd crore company when we did the buyout in 2005. So we grew very fast. One, we were having ambition, but more important is we have a venture capitalist on board in 2005. You know, a venture capitalist, he comes in with the objective of growing the company in 3 to 4 years and then do a exit when the valuations are good. So we had to go through that process, and it was good in a way, a good marriage, and this is how it happened.
Great, and then you listed on BSE, NSE 2010, 1,300 rupees for a 5 rupee share. Wow. How?
See, it was actually born out of our gut feeling that this is our valuation. But the merchant bankers, when they did the valuation, they were far short of this, way behind. This was not acceptable to us. One of the key reasons was there was a black box in the overseas acquired entities. Not much of quality information available. So the key challenge was that we go and camp there, and then we kind of do all the kind of introspection, and we finally got good quality financial information, and then we were able to convince the merchant bankers. And when we were actually listed, on the day of listing, they were actually saying that, oh, that this is the most expensive stock in the market. And believe me that when we rang the bell, this 1,300, within 5 minutes, it shot up to 1,800 bucks. So initially the thought was, the merchant bankers always argued with us that you have to leave something on the table if you're in the IPO. And we had the strong belief that we are not overvalued, but we must be fairly valued. And when we pitched it with 1,300, and when we actually rang the bell and we saw actually it's going to 1,800, it was proved beyond a doubt that we were not wrong. And it was only that the process has to be put in place.
Thanks. Vijay, let's get back to you now. So you guys had now developed a platform, things were starting to happen, magazines were starting to become your customers. Mm-hmm. How easy was it for you to raise your 3 million which you did in 2012 itself?
I think, it was difficult because it's not about raising monies. Like Mr. Lakshmi Narayan mentioned, monies are available, capitals are available. But choosing your right investor is the key to success in your business. So it was very challenging for us to find out who will be our right partner. We put our monies in line before we even went for fundraising. We invested like $500,000 from our own monies to get to to get to a point where we can actually start doing business. We had some existing customers. We have some clients using our product. So we went into the market with a product which is existing and which is already in traction. So it's all about how do we pick up our right investors, because one of the challenges for us to grow is to make it a global business. That's one of the difficulties as well. How to set up a product company as a global business. We are not only focusing in India because the magazine market itself is very focused and a narrowed market. In that sense, the scope of the market is very limited, right? So to get into a global market, we have to set up the entire operations in the nerve center of magazines, which is New York, because that's where most of the magazine companies operate and license their magazines to all over the world, and many of the Indian magazines are being licensed from there. So it's all about setting up global operations. Who can take our business globally? Who can help us build our business globally is the biggest challenge that we had in our mind when we went for our fundraise. So we, Mr. Vaidyanathan said, he pitched to 3 different Ps in the same same day, telling the same story. We lined up a lot of VC meetings. We told this is an opportunity. So from morning to evening, we made 5 pitches, same kind of pitches, same PPTs, talking to different VCs, different people. That's the only difference. But when we pitch, it's not about selling our company. It's more about how they understand our company and how they value our company in terms of our growth success or our potential to reach customers and how they can really help us. So we validated them rather than they validating us in our minds when we went in front of the VCs. So that's how it all started. The second biggest challenge is, yes, of course, monies are available. We had some offers coming in from VC saying, hey, we wanted to invest money because we see potential. It's all about valuation. That's the secondary point when you take the money. So you have some good VCs who are offering you good valuation, but you see less strategic values. You see some VCs offering less valuation, but you see a lot of strategic values. It's a call that any entrepreneur has to take, which ones you have to take. Is it a strategic value that you want to take, or is it the valuation of the company you have to take? It's a call that obviously, you have to take at some point of the business, because that decides the growth of your company. So we got 2 to 3 good offers, and we chose a partner who is well strategic and who is also giving reasonably good valuation. So it was a challenge, but yeah, at the end of the day, since the business is already in the market, we had little, the non-friction points while raising our monies. But the challenge obviously lies in picking up the right VCs.
Thanks, Vijay. Just 1 or 2 questions with Varadarajan and Vijay, and then I'll hand over to Ramraj for him to take us through what he sees in the future. So Varadarajan, you spoke to me about the power of affirmation. And you said this power of affirmation is what made you guys go after things and achieve things. Can you share some aspects of what this is?
See, the research findings of neonatologists say that you can actually program your mind with your mouth. They talk about power of spoken words. It happened sometime in 2006 after we did the management buyout. We were like this in a conference, and they said that you have to pick out some 3 or 4 goals for you in the near future, and then you have to affirm. And there was a teacher who trained us on this. And we had 4 goals. One, it was we should become a 1,000 crore company, which means we have to grow 5 times. We should have export turnover of about $50 million minimum or something. Then we wanted to be a listed company, and the 4th was we will buy a European company. Europeans are known for this water technology, so we said we'll buy a European company. We didn't know at that time that we'll buy out our own parent. So we did this, and then we came back and we put up this affirmation across the company in every table, and every person had a chance to look at it and keep looking at it. And in every gathering that we had, every meeting, we started affirming as a collective effort. We were doing collective affirmations. And when we actually rang the bell and did the listing in 2010, you wouldn't believe we have actually got all the 4 goals what we said was realized. And this is what I mean, that you can do whatever you want if you can have the belief, and with the belief you start affirming. So you program your mind, and when actually it's said that you need to write what you want, and when you write, if your thought is also on that, and your eyes, your brain and your hand is synchronized at that point of time, something magic happens.
Great. I mean, this is in line with the theme of the conference, and I've read that in a poem where it says, life's battles do not always go to the faster or stronger man, but sooner or later the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And it's in line with what Varadarajan you shared as the power of affirmation, which is so in line with the theme for this conference. Vijay, one last question before I hand over to Ram. You raised another 10 million. You want to become a reading destination, which Anup shared. Therefore, now you are widening your canvas to try and bring books and other things into it and not just magazines. Let me ask you more. Any growth pangs, any self-doubts?
It's always there in a business. Without that, I mean, you are not really doing a business, right? So we had like a couple of pangs in that sense. And one of the key things that we see always is, since it's a new age customers and in a new age platform, the customer needs changes quite a lot. Since we launched, I mean, we launched with magazines, and it's always a changing needs of customers. We have a big question in front of us. Do we all really need to read magazine on a daily basis? Everybody wakes up in the morning, not necessarily take a magazine and read it. We all read newspapers, right? We all read something else, or we see something happening on the app coming to you as notifications and stuff. But you really don't want to put yourself into magazine unless you have like 300% leisure time available to yourself, or somebody is forcing you to read. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we are facing, and the magazine industry itself is facing. That's what we wanted to sail across by creating a platform for magazines to make them more discoverable. So we are bringing out new things that can facilitate those things. Like Anup mentioned, I mean, we talked about reading destination. It's not only about magazines. It's about, you think about a lot of things today. I mean, for example, if you think about e-commerce in India, you think about Flipkart or a couple of other people. If you think about e-commerce in US, you think about Amazon and others. So what we wanted to really do is, if you think about something in lines of reading, right? We wanted you to think about Maxter. So we wanted to make sure Maxter is your reading destination. This can be achieved only when you have like other content, not only magazines. It's about books, it's about news, and the way we present it. So we want to change the face of the industry, we want to change the face of the media by putting a different logic behind the way that you read or you consume information on a day-to-day basis, which is coming by early 2015, where we really hope to live with the trust that Tycon has put in us like a billion-dollar baby.
Thanks, Vijay. Ram, over to you. Okay. Yeah.
So first of all, congratulations on being chosen as the billion-dollar babies for this morning. So when I was told that Wabag and Maxter were the billion-dollar babies, the first thing that struck me is, how difficult is it going to be for them to make it there, or is it going to be really easy? How big is that opportunity going forward? is there something really big? So I looked at water first. And I saw some UN data which said 80 million people getting added every year. Water requirement will grow 30% in the next 10 to 15 years. And most places, groundwater won't be available and only treated water will be available in the near future. And the first war on water is predicted to be in 2017. So in 2017, the prediction is there will be war for water. So you're at the right place, at the right time. I think the opportunity is not the question. Then I looked at Maxter and I said, who reads today that long? And is there really an opportunity? And looking at all the data that was there, $1 billion is the incremental advertising going into digital reading. $1 billion, incremental, over the already 4 to 5 billion that is being spent. So the opportunity increases $1 billion. Circulation is going up 42%. So it's not really that much of a challenge. So that's the good news. The opportunity is there for both the companies. The mindset is there. They're thinking global. So what is it that may possibly hold them back, if at all? And I'm sure they've slept and dreamt about how they're going to overcome some of this. So I had a couple of questions that I thought I could ask each of you as to how you're addressing some things that I'm seeing. So the first thing I saw was that venture capital has invested in water technologies like that is the biggest opportunity in the near term. 183 investments this decade. And they are saying this decade is destined to give great innovation in water technology, which means plenty of competition. And I thought one of your threats, I know you have a lot of patents that you have, but one of the threats I was seeing is technology and the way technology is changing, the way polymers are being used, where nanotechnology is being used. Large companies are buying patents, and therefore LG has just bought a company, you know, Nano H2O, which had a UCLA patent into how to get water purified very nicely. So what is the way you're looking at combating this new technology change that's going to happen?
See, what challenge that we face is, since we are spread across different geographies, the challenge is different in each of the geography. For example, let's take, we are in Switzerland. Now this is a landlocked country. Now you would find that their lakes are very precious for them. So they have put a very high standard of letting a treated water into these water bodies. Now that's where we see that the higher end of the technologies are emerging there. And Wabag is today having 60% market share in these advanced technologies. The other end, if you would see, we are in developing, emerging world. Could be India, China, MENA countries, we call it. Now, the challenge is different here because here, it's not about a very unique technology in a small scale that you do for a country like Switzerland. This is about creating a very large asset, which is catering to a very large set of population. The 100 million liters per day capacity, desal plant which we have in Chennai is still only about 10% or 12% of the water needs of a city like this. Now, I can't replicate this in an advanced country in Europe. 100 million is too much for them, for so many countries put together. So here the challenge is cost. You need to beat the cost and make sure that it's more affordable. In fact, there was a dialogue I was having with someone in the evening, and they were asking, how is it that it's so very expensive with your all these membranes and this and that you're bringing as a new technology? How do you think it is scalable for you? And I told him that the good news is, I asked him what should be the cost of water. You're buying at $12 or $15 per liter. And he said it could be about $5 to $7. Is it okay? He said. I said, desalination is the most expensive water. Now you tell me, should it be that much? He said, I think, okay, you add two more rupees. But the fact is, when we actually modeled this diesel plant, taking the capex and the very power-intensive OPEX across for about, say, 15-20 years as a BOOT model, the cost came to about 5.5 paise per liter. Now, this is actually the need of this country. One side, we are working on more on membranes to ensure that the power consumption, which is actually during the operation maintenance, you consume a lot of power. So the power consumption, what it was about 5-6 years, is very different what it is today. We have come up with a lot of new technologies to capture the power back, because when you push the membranes with intense power, you get good water and you get the bad water segregation through the reverse osmosis method. But in that, when you push out the water, that water has enough power in it. So we actually tap this power back using power saving devices, and we almost recover 90% of the power what we injected today. Now we need to reinvent in the membranes further to bring down the costs further. One is this. The other side, we always feel that the world is not about only desalination. It's going to be water is scarce. You said about water war in 2017. I wish Wabag brings peace and not war. But we feel water reuse is going to be a great technology for future, because water is generally meant for single use. You use and you throw. Now, if you bring back life to this water, I think that's the greatest thing that you can do to the earth. In fact, our plant in city of Windhoek in Namibia is running for the last 12 years. That was the first plant which we created, where domestic sewage is converted into potable drinking water, and the city of Windhoek is largely dependent on this plant. We are now scaling it up. Now, we feel that reuse is going to be the future. So we are working on various technologies where I mentioned about 5.5 paise for diesel. I can tell you it's much, much economical to treat wastewater. So we call it actually the black gold, okay? In the sense that we go and tell the municipalities that you have so much of dirty water, okay? What you can do, you are more worried, how am I going to invest and get the money for all this investment to treat the water? Give this to us, we will treat and we will give you good water to you. Now the question that comes is, how much will you charge? We are answering them, you just give this water, instead of you paying me, we will pay you. Does it make sense? This is how we feel that we should actually offer the technologies to what is the need of the hour. So it varies from geography to geography.
I think, like I spoke about technology, and you seem to have figured that out and must have gone through sleepless nights coming up with some of that. I thought the challenge for Maxter is slightly different. Technology is their core, so they must be on top. But the consumer, I thought, is the one that is going to be disruptive in this business. Consumer taste, content is free on the internet, is the belief. So why would I want to pay for these magazines? So there's serious pushback. Two, I don't want to read this whole magazine. I may want to read an article or two. So I saw a company that's come up called Flipboard about the same time you started on television. So they seem to have figured out both the user and revenue generation. And are you thinking that this is a challenge?
Yeah, so to clarify the situation between what's happening with Maxter and what's happening with Flipboard. Flipboard is all about curating feeds, news feeds that is coming in from various sources, right? It's a public RSS feeds. So anybody sitting around here can just go and subscribe to those feeds and read it. But what we are bringing on Maxter is something premium. You have to subscribe to it because it's behind a paywall. The content, it's all about the source of the content, what you're writing into it. The success of the magazine business is because of the long form that they present to the consumers. If you want to read something about MH370 flight crash after like a week, the entire series of events will be well presented and articulated. That's one of the reasons why many magazines like Time magazines are still validated in the industry. People when they put something on their cover story, it becomes the biggest thing in the world, right? So magazine business are there for their nature of content, the way they present it. Whereas Flipboard is just curating an open public RSS feed, right? So that's the fundamental difference between what Maxter started doing and what Flipboard started doing. So as a challenge, what we see, advertising, when you talked about advertising inside Flipboard, if you see the kind of revenue that they are generating, it's in very nascent stages, right? Glossy ads inside RSS feeds. People may spend like few $1 million, but the amount of valuation the company is into, the amount of advertising that they have to generate to make it a profitable business is huge, right? I mean, so that's the challenge that they do have. But what we have in essence is, we wanted to change the way, because magazine industry in many places are seen like, if you talk to a magazine publisher, they say, you know what, my content is great, but I'm not able to reach the audience, right? Because the reason is, people wanted to immediately Google something and read it on the internet, or go to a Flipboard source, try to read it. These content that the magazine publishers are putting together, right, it doesn't reach the audience because of the fact that it's behind a paywall. That's what we are trying to crack, right? The product that we are going to launch, the new version of Maxter in early 2015, will address these concerns. We will tell you what you have to read, rather than you going and seeing the platform and if you go to Flipboard today and choose a category that you like, thousands of articles will come in front of you. You don't know what you have to read. You will be lost inside the entire platform. It sounds interesting when you hear about it, but when you practically experience Flipboard, it's not the greatest platform available, right? But what we are trying to do as a unique opportunity for users, we have to give what they want to read. If you wake up in the morning, I will find out what you have to read, the top 10 most things that you wanted to read from your region or from your interest. That's what Maxter is trying to crack. It could be sources from magazines, it could be sources from books, it could be sources from open newsfeed. That's the kind of new convergence we are creating as a content destination, as a reading destination. With that, I feel we are way ahead of anybody else in the market, right? Even though there's a challenge for us today, magazine audiences are limited, whereas Flipboard kind of open feed audiences are large because they all wanted to read something free, but still they don't get what they really want. I have experienced Flipboard. I've gone into Flipboard, I have put some categories. I will get CNN, another like top 6 sources. They put like 200 newses in front of me. I'm not thrilled about it because I'm not seeing what I want to read. I'm interested in like venture capital. I'm interested in technology. I'm interested in long runs, marathons and stuff, right? So I may want to see those articles and the trending articles, which is not available in Flipboard. Those are the things that we are addressing, and we are already almost there. So there comes the key difference.
Just one question, JK, or we are done?
Maybe one quick
one. We are done. I think we are late.
Yeah.
So I seeing a couple of things I thought why I feel both these companies are definitely not just billion-dollar babies, but in the near term, billion-dollar companies. One is there is an incredible business model shift in the water treatment. And I think, Varadarajan, you touched upon it, that instead of people paying you to treat their water, you're going to treat. And I've seen quite a few companies that are looking at that. And the fact that you're adapted your business model for per barrel service kind of stuff that you're talking, I think is one of the success factors, that you've been adapting to technology, to business model changes in this vast opportunity that you actually are a leader in. I think is a sure thing that you will be $1 billion, and we hope that you will sponsor the future Tycons very generously. So, I was looking and wondering, is Flipboard kind of stuff really a threat to Maxter? One of the beauties of Maxter is that they actually deal with the end customer. They know the profile. In television advertising, we are moving to what's called addressable advertising, which means Vijay will see an ad when he's reading or seeing something, say for golf clubs or for marathon. And I, doing the same program, watching it, will see something maybe for old age homes or some such stuff relevant to me. So they have profiled it to such an extent that watching the same program, reading the same article, we get different ads. And that profiling is, I think, the strength that Maxter has, by which they will definitely be, I think, the disruptive company in the future. So I wish them both the very best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. What I definitely hear from you is wherever they are in their stage of reaching $1 billion, they need to keep running. And somewhere I read, somewhere in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows that it needs to run faster than the fastest lion, else it will get killed. Somewhere in Africa, a lion wakes up. It knows that it needs to run faster than the slowest gazelle, else it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle, when the sun rises, better get up and run. And I think that is true for us as entrepreneurs, where Ramraj was saying when I was sharing this, he said, hey, sun is up somewhere in the world, so it means you have to keep running 24 hours. So that's part of us being entrepreneurs. Thanks, Ram, for those insightful comments. And for paucity of time, we are not taking any questions from the audience, but all the speakers are available at the end of the session, and so you could interact with them at your leisure throughout the day. And we have now some special prizes for both the $1 billion babies, and I invite Lakshmi and Naru to join us on the stage to hand that over. And while they are coming, see, this whole session is about us being able to identify some of these gems. Lakshmi and Naru, please come up to the stage and these things. And I read a lovely part in a poem by Thomas Gray called Elegy in a Country Churchyard, where he says, many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bare. Many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness in the desert air. So this whole thing is about there could be many more gems in this audience. There are many more $1 billion babies who are either potential or they just need to get identified. So we are all from Tai Chennai and this entire thing. Naru's idea of showcasing $1 billion babies, wish that everyone here realizes their potential, gets that brilliance out in the gem, and has an opportunity to showcase their brilliance to the world. Naru and Lakshmi. Okay, one last word. I'm now going to build on what Varadarajan said about affirmation. Naru, I need you here. Would all of you repeat after me? I can do it. I can do it. More energy, please. I can do it. I can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for facilitating that session, and congratulations to our